I love people. And I tell them all the time, there's nothing you can do about it, because I love you. It's just, it's like that because it's the way it is. But let me just digress for just a moment. When I got into this business, I met a man by the name of Tom Sawyer. Tom Sawyer and I met outside of Kennedy Memorial Gardens. One day I was a whippersnapper. I told him I was the best. And I told him, he said, "Are you making any money?" I said, "Hey, I'm a top salesperson. I make plenty of money." And so we shared some numbers, and he said, "You make that kind of money working for me, I'd have to fire you for not making enough." When he said that, 2 weeks later I went door knocking, and when I made my first sale and he paid me so much money, I said, "Listen, I don't want any problems now. This kind of check you just wrote me, I don't want you to call the police and say I took your money." But things really worked out. In 6 months, I was vice president of the company, and in 6 years, I was president and part owner. So it was a nice journey. But Tom Sawyer taught me the golden rules. He taught me this industry, along with Jim Rutledge, and I dare to say, everyone that I started with 31 years ago, may they all rest in peace. But they had a lot of confidence in me. A lot of people made predictions. He'll make too much money. He's so young. He'll become this, he'll become that. But they lied on me because I never let anyone co-sign on who I was yet to become. Because I believe in this industry and I believe in the people. And I met some of the most wonderful people along the way. I've had hundreds of employees in my 31 years. Just great, outstanding people. I'm meeting their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren now. But before I go any further, I'd like to recognize 4 people that I have drugged around this country to conventions, and they have always supported me. First of all, the love of my life, Francina Amiker, my wife. My namesake, Ellaway D. Amiker IV. My eldest daughter, Francesca Sierra Amiker. She doesn't like this, but she's my baby. Frangelica Deanna Amiker. Let me just simply say that I was very fortunate in this lifetime to meet a man by the name of A.H. Watts. It's Winnie's uncle. A.H. Watts spent over 70 years in the cemetery industry. A.H. Watts went to a meeting such as this and showed me the pictures back in the day in Washington, D.C. I said, "How did you do that?" He said, "Well, it wasn't easy, but I made it happen." He taught me so much. It was invaluable, the lessons I learned from him. Mr. H.C. Clemens, they both have passed on to glory, and I stand on gentlemen like that shoulders. I always said if I ever got here, I would have to give them a shout out, if you will, because they meant so much to me in my career and in my life and that kind of thing. After spending so many years in this business, I had an opportunity having worked with Tom Sawyer, which I felt was one of the greatest, and then A.H. Watts, but now I'm being blessed to finish this trilogy. I now have an opportunity to work with Mrs. Joan Sawyer, and then there's an adage to that. I get to work with her son, who he and I for 30 years have competed against one another, but I tell you, you would never know that we were competing against one another. He would call me with things that concerned my part, and I would call him with things that concerned his part. And today, we have finally joined forces in Atlanta. A new story, a new chapter is about to be told. Trust me. Jack Rocky. But let me reach out to this audience and simply say, so many of you have read about, so many of you have heard about, and to certainly come to these meetings and find out how approachable you were, how you extended words of comfort, words of encouragement to both me and my family at these conventions and whatnot, no matter where you were. Mr. Stewart, the first thing you did after meeting you, you invited me to your home in New Orleans. It was 4 years later, but I came to your home and had dinner with you and the wife, and I enjoyed that. Mr. Frost, you've always been a hero to me, and I never thought that I'd be able to rub shoulders with you. And I tell you, we got laws changed in the state of Georgia that they said could not be changed. And I think everybody was overthinking it. We got a high-priced attorney. We spent $100,000. And I thought, as I became president of the board, I said, how did all of this happen? It happened via legislation. The smart lawyers did it. I said, didn't you go to law school? You're smart too. We got together, the Republicans came to power, and we got in bed and we got things done. But we could not have moved the point. The last day of the General Assembly, 4th and goal to go, we called out Jack Frost Sr. The lieutenant governor immediately took him into the Senate chambers, and we don't know what happened after that, but I heard the governor would be signing House Bill 910, and the rest is history. There was a, everybody says they have a right-hand man, but over the years I've had 2 right-hand women. One is not here tonight, Penny Bonner. She was just wonderful. She worked for me for about 13 years. And a Cynthia Watkins, who's here tonight, worked for me about 5 years. I don't take people for granted. I love people, and I reward loyalty, and I will always be loyal to this association. And let me simply say, one of my charges standing here tonight is to grow this association by 25% between now and Nashville. That's number 1. Number 2, I would like to see this regional association reach back to the states, and we will become more instrumental in helping as you try and pass and legislate various things that are hindering and prohibiting you from doing business. We're big enough, we're strong enough, we got the brain trust, and I think we have the power, woman power and man power to get it done. With that, I ask you all to join me in forging a new chapter ahead for the Southern Cemetery, Cremation, and Funeral Association, because the best is yet to come. Thank you very much.